Good afternoon and welcome back to another pre-match show with the Saddlers back in action for the first time in 3 weeks here at the Banksy Stadium, with Exeter City being today's visitors. We'll be hearing from head coach Matt Taylor about today's game, as well as taking a look back to our 2-2 draw against the Grecians earlier this season, a game in which George Miller scored a brace. We're also going to take a look back to one of the Saddlers' last undefeated 5 games against Exeter, which was a 3-1 win here at the Banksy Stadium, in which substitute Elijah Adebayo scored 2 goals to turn a game around and give the Saddlers all 3 points. As always, I'm going to be joined by my colleague Paul Joannou as we take a look back at the last 2 away games against Stevenage and Mansfield Town, as well as looking ahead to this afternoon's 3 o'clock kickoff. After that, we'll have team news coming up for you very shortly across our social media channels, so make sure you stay tuned for that. First up, we are going to take a look back at that 2-2 draw at St James's Park earlier in the season. So that was the game back in October, which was a pretty dramatic one, with Matt Jay missing a penalty for the home side before George Miller converted from the spot for the Saddlers. Next up, we are going to take a look back at that 3-1 win that I mentioned earlier back in March 2020, with Elijah Adebayo scoring 2 goals and Rory Holden also getting himself on the score sheet. Here are the key moments from that game. 5 of the last 7 games between the two sides here at the Banksy Stadium today have produced 4 or more goals, so it could be a cracker. Here are the thoughts of Walsall's Matt Taylor ahead of this afternoon's 3 o'clock kickoff.
So we're back at home on Saturday when we take on Exeter City. Obviously, recent home results have been pretty good. Are the players looking forward to getting back at the Banksies after 2 away trips?
Yeah, very much so. The players are buoyant. Players are in a good spirit at the moment, which is imperative because it's taken them out onto the training pitch. But yeah, most definitely pleased to be back at home in front of our fans. And we know previously when we perform well and we put a performance together consistently for the period of the game that we win matches. And that's most definitely what we're going to have to do again on Saturday.
I won't go too much into the fact that it's Matt Taylor versus Matt Taylor when we take on Exeter City. But how do Walsall go about getting 3 points against Exeter City? What sort of challenge are we expecting from them?
I think they're a very strong team with an experienced manager. He's now led his team nearly to where he wants them to be on a couple of recent occasions, so he understands exactly what is required to be successful in this league. And they're a strong physical team. They have good attacking options, good threats. Of course, we feel that if we can execute our game plan correctly, that we've got an opportunity to win the game. But it's going to be a difficult game. I think at the beginning of the season or earlier in the season when we played them, we showed huge character that day. And we're going to need to do that again because it's going to be a tough afternoon for sure for us. But, my challenge is that we want to make it as difficult for Exeter as well.
So that was the thoughts of head coach Matt Taylor ahead of this afternoon's game against Exeter City. I'm now joined by Paul. Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me. It feels like a long time since we did a pre-match show, having not done one at the previous 2 away games. So that's where we'll start. A defeat in both of those, but a much improved performance last time out against Mansfield Town, and it was, balanced on a knife edge, wasn't it? Because if George's chance goes in, it's a completely different game then.
Yeah, that's it. Again, we've spoke about it many times. It's those fine margins, isn't it? And those big moments in games that it just didn't go our way on Saturday in that respect because, as you say, it was a great chance by George Minoff. It looked like he did everything right, beat the goalkeeper, and you got to say it's a terrific block by, I think it was George Maris. I think it came off his neck, I was told as well, and off the line. And then 3 minutes later, Mansfield go and take the lead. And it sort of changed the complexion of the game because obviously Mansfield then, a team in form, have something to hold on to, and they managed the game really well. Managed by an experienced manager in Nigel Clough who helped navigate them through that. They've got some experienced players in their ranks as well, good League 2 players as well who've got good CVs. So their game management was very good, and the Saddlers, as positive as they tried to be with, especially with the substitutions, bringing on 3 forward attacking players, just couldn't quite get that equaliser for their efforts. And George and Connor both had opportunities, but Mansfield did the job they had to do, and in the end they got that second goal and killed the game off late on, and it was 2-0. It looks like a comfortable afternoon for Mansfield, but I don't think it was. Personally, I thought the Saddlers battled really well in the first half. Yes, there was at times when Mansfield came at us and had opportunities of their own, but so did we. It was a competitive first half, which either side could have got a goal, and I think Walsall would have been quite happy with their position at half-time, knowing they could probably go and kick on that bit further in the second half. And as you said, Tom, nearly did. But it was an improvement on Stevenage because it was a poor start to that game, wasn't it? Going 2-0 down after 10 minutes, it almost rips up your game plan, and you've got a mountain to climb, and you haven't quite found your feet in the game. You're already 2-0 down, and whereas at Mansfield it was a case of the Saddlers were really competitive and had good opportunities to take the lead, and as you say, it could have been a different story. Let's hope it's a different story here today against Exeter City.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that chance for George there. George is somebody who, the fans are quite rightly picking up on the fact that he's not scored goals, and he picks up on it himself, when he talks to us, whether it's down a tunnel or, just in passing conversation. And he probably thought he'd ended his goal drought there on last Saturday against Mansfield, but, he's somebody that knows his own strengths. The head coach knows what strengths George has, and that's getting in behind and utilising that. And he did it twice in that game against Mansfield, and it's just about being in those right positions, isn't he, as an attacker, to get those chances, because you can't worry when those chances are falling your way. the place you have to worry about then is if you're not in those positions when the chances are being created.
Yeah, that's right, and he's getting those chances, and he's got the backing of everyone. I think Matt was asked about it at a press conference not so long ago, and he thoroughly backs George and backs him 100%, and believes in him that he's going to score goals. All strikers go through periods where they don't score goals. It does happen to even the very best strikers on the planet, So George is not out of the ordinary, and he came very, very close on Saturday, very close. And like I said, I think that one that was cleared off the line through no fault of his own. I think the goalkeeper makes an excellent save. I think it was in the end of the first half, wasn't it? With a shot down low to the keeper's left. So he's getting the chances. He's working his socks off as he always does. He makes life difficult for defenders. It's a tough job he's got up there as well. But I've got no doubt the goal will come, and it will probably be like pretty much every game he's scored in. Once he gets that one, he'll back it up with the second, and we'll be coming off the pitch thinking, I should have had a hat-trick, just like he has done on 3 occasions this season where he's got a brace. So I'm sure when that goal comes, it'll probably be a brace, won't it, knowing George? Yeah,
and I mentioned it in the link earlier when we look back at the clips from the game earlier in the season. He scored 2 goals in that game, like you mentioned, plenty of braces for him so far this season. But again, I mentioned it, I think it's 5 of the last 7 games between the two sides have produced 4 or more goals. If you're looking to see more goals in this game today, it could be a very entertaining affair at the Banksies today.
Yeah, I think Exeter are an entertaining side. Having looked at them, I think they play with a back 3 and wing backs. Tyree Shade told me that when I spoke to him earlier for saddlers.co.uk as well. I think they play with wing backs, so they look to be quite expansive by the look of it. So it'll be a really entertaining game. I think they were on a bit of a tricky run until they beat Scunthorpe last week, so they'll have a bit of confidence from that. But the Saddlers, again, they'll be confident. They'll know what Exeter can bring, but they'll know how to score goals against them. There was 2 goals that we scored against them earlier in the season. It was a really good performance from memory, and the Saddlers could have perhaps come away with more than a point, and that I think that was an entertaining game as well. So all the makings are there. And looking back to previous fixtures against Exeter, I remember a 3-1 win here, the last game before the pandemic struck. I think early that season a crazy 3-3 draw as well. So it's one for the neutrals, isn't it? It seems to be Walsall v Exeter, but actually on the flip side, it was 2 0-0 draws last season. So they're well contested matches. That's what we can say, I think. So I'm expecting that again today.
Yeah, it's a complete flip side. We talk about those games that have got plenty of goals in it, but there was 2 solid performances of 0-0s. I remember us going away there on a Tuesday night, and it wasn't the most glamorous of games for anybody watching on iFollow and for us who were there at the game. But the Saddlers, I think, are unbeaten in 4 at home in the league, and it's all about, we talk about that key word, it's often used by the head coach and by ourselves, that momentum, finding that momentum is key, especially moving forward into games that are coming up. Got back-to-back home games now, and it's all about finding that key word, isn't it, momentum, and moving us forward.
Absolutely, and I think it's our first Saturday Tuesday for a number of weeks now, probably since was it when we had Crawley after the Swindon game? I think that's the last time we had a Saturday Tuesday. Obviously we didn't have the busy Christmas period we anticipated with the postponement, so I think maybe perhaps the lads would have liked a Tuesday game after the Mansfield and Stevenage games, perhaps. So, but they're going to have an opportunity here to, put that behind them and get a result at home, and then, if it's a positive one, that momentum can be taken into a game on Tuesday rather than on a Saturday. So, it's nice to have that quick turnaround. I think after a while, I know sometimes it's can be quite relentless, but I think after a while, I think maybe it might be good for us to have that fast turnaround with 2 games in 3 days.
Yeah, it's all about that, 2 games in 3 days. As always, we thank you for your support for those games. If you are coming to pick your tickets up from the ticket office, please just allow yourself a bit more time, because we are expecting it to be a little bit busier than usual. If you're coming into the Stadium Suite to watch the game at 12:30, please enjoy yourself and look after yourselves. And as always, that one final thing for me to say is, come on you Saddlers.